back again for another second act show. I am John Tarnoff, and my co-host is the lovely
Carrie Hannon. Nice to see everyone today.
And yes, indeed. And today, Carrie, can you turn your mic up at all, do you think? A little bit. I want to make sure you hear this.
All right. Is that better?
A little bit better. I can boost it in post, as we say. So today we are the Ally McGraw and Steve McQueen of Second Act Careers.
Oh, liking that one, my friend. That's good.
That's right. Fast, stylish, up to the minute.
Yes.
Beautiful. That's us. So today we are going to be talking with a very, very savvy gentleman, Justin Smith of Savant Wealth Management, to talk about this idea of the victory lap and how financial planning is such a key component of the second act career process. So without further ado, I'll just find him here on my screen. And I'm gone. I can't work this thing today. There's our friend Justin.
Hey, Johnny.
How are you, sir?
Excellent.
Great. So I'm going to just do the intro, and then we are going to pop right into the conversation. Justin's a financial planner who specializes in helping professionals navigate the chapter between full-time work and full-stop retirement, which he calls the victory lap, so they can spend their time, energy, and money focused on what's actually most important to them. Justin's been involved in the financial services industry since 2005, and prior to joining Savant Wealth Management, he was a partner and portfolio manager for an independent registered investment advisory firm in Chicago. He's a frequent speaker on the topics of victory lap retirement and tax-smart retirement planning. And I just want to say that we've talked extensively about this, and Justin believes it's time to put smart financial planning together with sound career planning to maximize everyone's life. And I think that is a wonderful way of looking at it. And I'll bring Terry back in. Sorry about that. So welcome, Justin. Great to have you on the show.
Thanks, John.
I want to just jump right into the meat of the conversation and ask you, based on your practice and working with clients in this crazy economy that we find ourselves in, what is the number one challenge facing a older worker, older professional who is trying to cope with working longer and saving longer?
Yeah, I would say the number one challenge is just having the confidence and resiliency required to take a non-traditional path. You know, if you are blazing a new trail on the career journey and also trying to make sure you have the financial resources lined up behind it, it can be really daunting. So if somebody doesn't have a plan how to navigate the financial aspects, the career aspects, just the total life aspects of it, I find them struggling to have the confidence and resiliency needed to be successful.
Carrie, your mic is not, I'm not hearing it for some reason. All right, let me follow up. So how do you see the role of the CFP evolving to fulfill that challenge and kind of fit in this new non-traditional way of looking at what used to be end of career? Now it's more of a mid-career.
Yeah, and a lot of our industry has been built around that traditional idea of retirement. Save a bunch of money in your retirement accounts, then you've got Social Security and Medicare, and that should hopefully be enough to carry you through. And that works if you work all the way up till 65 or 70. But if you want to break away and pivot and do something before 65, if you want to do that in your 50s, you're going to need to have a much more robust plan, and you're going to need, again, more resiliency. You're going to have to be more flexible, make adjustments along the way, and having guidance along that journey is even more critical because there's going to be so many more twists and turns on your journey.
Still not hearing you. Not sure. So maybe go back to the old mic. No, that's still not working. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can fiddle with it on my end. No, the mic seems to be on as far as I'm concerned. Would you check your control panel, Carrie, to see if you are on mute on the platform? No. Oh my goodness, this is so unfortunate. Well, let me jump in. We'll try to keep working on this. Justin, try, if you can, to be a little bit more specific about planning. What distinguishes the kind of plan that we need to do now, looking at a longer work life, longer physical life? Longevity obviously is increasing. Does this mean that we start saving earlier? Does it mean better advice, more discipline? What are people doing differently now to plan for this, if they are doing something different?
Yeah, and a lot of people are no longer counting down the years until they get to the finish line. They are, again, pivoting to a career or a type of work that they want to do indefinitely, as long as they possibly can. And if you find yourself on that lane, the math changes in terms of how much you need to save. Hopefully, you've been saving diligently along the way, and that's always prudent to do that. But the traditional model, sometimes people would spend the last 5 years of their career really sandbagging the savings to get them over the hill. But if you're gonna work well into your 60s and into your 70s, you might not need to worry about saving just as much as you possibly can every single year to get to that finish line. Just by virtue of not touching your nest egg for another 5 or 10 years, that can be more impactful than a couple more 401k contributions.
Right. So it's a kind of a virtuous cycle. Work is a virtuous cycle. You get to earn more, maintain your lifestyle, continue to save, minimal impact, and then you turn out okay. And hopefully inflation doesn't undermine all of the benefits that you have stocked away.
Yep. And at this stage in life too, a lot of other things are shifting. If you have children, they might be moving out of the house. You might have education off your radar. You could be getting towards a point where maybe your mortgage is getting close to paid down. So some of those really big expenses could start to fall off. And the previous chapter of your life, you might have needed an income level right here to sustain your lifestyle and save and everything like that. But if you stop and reevaluate what this next chapter will look like, you might only need to earn this much just to pay the bills and get by. Maybe you have a nest egg that you could lean on for short periods of time. But if you can rely on that, second act career to provide for the basics, again, that is sometimes the golden ticket. Lets you defer Social Security, defer drawing from your retirement accounts, and can really, really help out your overall financial security too, which is kind of counterintuitive, that taking a lower paying job that you really enjoy and are fulfilled by, that you can do for a longer period of time, can put you in a really good position.
Right. Oh no, still nothing, Carrie. Carrie, why don't you pop off and then reconnect, and let me try to put you back on. There we go. All right, so hopefully she'll come back on. In that scenario that you're talking about, are there any hidden traps or stumbling blocks that people encounter in saying, okay, I'm going to just keep working and things are going to work out? I mean, what should people be looking out for?
Yeah, put a plan together. We think about 5 critical components of their financial life that we need to solve for. The first is cash flow. You need to have enough cash flow to support your lifestyle. And it doesn't all have to necessarily be from salary, right? It could be in this second act, it could be a combination of things that provide that cash flow you need. And you need to make sure that it's going to be sustainable long term. So cash flow is always a number one. There's other elements we need to solve for that people often overlook. Health insurance. If you're going to exit the traditional workforce, you need a solution for health insurance, because you're not going to be eligible for Medicare until 65. You're going to need to solve for all the employee benefits that you might be leaving behind, retirement accounts, things like that. You need a tax plan, and also you just need to make sure all of your financial resources are in alignment with where you're trying to go. So when I do this kind of planning, I always first start not by talking about the numbers, but about what's your vision for your second act? Where do you want to go? What does it look like? Then we can start building behind that. Okay, what are the goals? What are the career goals that we want to achieve? What are the financial goals we want to achieve? What are the work, the hobby and lifestyle goals we want to achieve? Then we start laying in the actual financial strategies, the career strategies to support that. So I think it's the thing there is be deliberate and intentional with this planning process. This is your life you're talking about. This is a multi-decade long adventure you're going on. Take some time and create a plan and really think it through. And don't be afraid to ask for help and bring in other perspectives.
Yeah, can you hear me now, you guys?
Yes, you're
All
back.
right.
Okay, so here's what I want to know. Maybe I missed it while I was out, but you just sort of touched on it a little bit, Justin. Tell us about like the team. Who do you need to have around you to take you into this next chapter? How do you pull this together and help people figure this out?
Yeah, I think no matter your circumstances, you should think about putting together a personal board of directors, really, right? And that should include people who can help you focus on the career side of things, people who can help you focus on the financial side of things, and just over the overall lifestyle. And depending on where you're at, you might need different types of people. You might need career coaches or just colleagues that you can talk to. Do your research to really prepare yourself for the job market. On the financial side, a financial planner, obviously I'm a little biased, but I think it's really critical to have that. Somebody that can look across all the different silos, and they can help connect you with accountants, attorneys, health insurance agents, other insurance agents, someone that can act as the quarterback for all the complex financial needs. And then health and lifestyle, if that's a big component of it too. Either integrate health and wellness plan, get a personal trainer if you need to, but again, bring it all into one cohesive plan and make sure it's all in alignment. Because if you're trying to do a career thing and a financial thing and a health and wellness thing that are not aligned, it's just not possible for it to work. So
And you call it
again, bring the plan into alignment and then bring in experts, to whatever degree necessary to support all those different goals you have.
So it's kind of like your board of directors, I think you called it.
Exactly. Your personal board of directors to help support all those things. It's my favorite saying on this is that it's hard to read the label from inside the bottle, right? Get people who can give you that outside perspective and help guide you along the way. And you can say, hey, I'm thinking about going down this path. You've never gone down that path before, but if you can tap your board of directors, they might have the collective experience of dozens of people who've gone down a similar path, tell you what to watch out for, tell you what opportunities might lie down that road. So it's really invaluable to get that help and guidance from a variety of different perspectives.
But the importance of having someone like you on a team too is I've interviewed and I've worked with so many people who have done second acts, over the age of 50, started businesses or career transition. And the number one stumbling block is money.
Yep.
Like debt is the biggest dream killer, where you can have all the great hopes and dreams in the world, but if you don't have your financial piece together, it's really hard. So that's why, that's really kind of the first step, isn't it? Once they have a concept of what they want to do.
Yep. And that's really, again, where I like to start. Let's figure out your vision and your goals and then start putting that plan together and then explore what's possible. Sometimes what you think is possible and what reality says is possible, there's a big disconnect between those two. Again, get that outside perspective. Maybe you could have done that second act 3 years ago, but you're just a little too scared and conservative. Or maybe even though you really desperately want to make that pivot now, you'd be putting yourself in harm's way and you really need to stick it out for 2 or 3 more years. So again, calibrating your perception and expectations with reality with the help of an outside expert and professional is really important.
Justin, I want to carve out a little moment to talk a little bit about you for a second. This is a really interesting niche that you have carved out. What's your why behind this? How did you get into this, and what kind of brought this to your attention, and why did you just jump in with both feet?
Yeah, so my entire career has been in this wealth management industry, working primarily with executives and successful professionals. And, you know, for the most of it, we were planning on that traditional retirement route. We'd see executives go on to do some consulting or serve on a board of directors or do side projects and things like that. But it was just kind of haphazard. It came their way, but it wasn't intentional. And it really wasn't, that type of thing was only available to the C-suite type executives. But as time went on, 2008 forced a lot of people by necessity to carve out a second act because they were laid off. The job market was terrible. They had to get creative and things like that. So I saw a lot of interesting success stories coming out of 2008. And now I've been seeing more and more people say, now that that path has been blazed a handful of times and people know that it's possible to leave the traditional route, people are now exploring it more. And the reason I like this so much is that it lets people have the best of both worlds, right? I've worked with a lot of retirees over the years, and unfortunately, some of them, especially who are very career oriented, you lose a part of yourself when you stop working entirely. So why completely give that up if that adds value to your life? And also, being independent and flexible and autonomous adds value to your life. So if you can blend and get the best of both worlds, that's really what motivates me and drives me, is helping people find that, hey, there's this path in between where you can blur the lines in between work and retirement and have it all.
And are you seeing an uptick in people who are perhaps either clients that you have who are retired coming back to you and saying, I want to go back to work, or people coming to you out of retirement who are new clients saying, look, I've been retired for 3, 4, 5, maybe more years, but I'm just kind of waking up to the idea that I could go back to work and I could do something. Are you seeing that as a trend?
Yeah, and that's always been present. We call it kind of the retirement honeymoon. That first 6 to 12 months after the official retirement date, you get to check a bunch of things off your list. You get to do those things you've been deferring for a while. There's usually some travel involved, seeing old friends. But then after that, if you don't have a plan, then your calendar starts to be pretty blank, right? And there's less things on the to-do list. And you can find yourself just kind of floating without much purpose and fulfillment and direction. And that's where people come back and say, I want to go back and do something else. So typically people found themselves doing a second act. We kind of called it jokingly a failed retirement, right? Because they thought they were going to quit and then they came back and said, I want to go back. So it's even better if you can be intentional about it 2-3 years behind that what would be the retirement date and start planning ahead, because carving out a second act takes time, and then you have to plant seeds that eventually might sprout and nurture that so that you're ready when you hit that corporate finish line or whatever it might be.
No, it really is a process. I think that's really an important point to make. People, you don't just turn the switch and you turn it off and then it's back on again. It's a very thoughtful process. And I think working with an advisor like yourself can really help people figure out what their options are, because when they're financially fit, they can be pretty nimble about trying out a couple of different things. They don't have to like your linear career that, oh my gosh, now I'm going to start the second act and that's what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. When really it's not. It's like a patchwork quilt. They might do something for a while and something else. So is that what you're seeing, or do you have any
the patchwork quilt or the portfolio career is emerging more and more as well. And again, the financial resiliency is incredibly important there, to know that, okay, I can make it for X number of years with no additional income. So you can give yourself a runway to start something, if it's entrepreneurial or something. A lot of these second acts take 2, 3, 4 years to build up enough momentum to start, yielding a return. A consulting business, other things like freelance type of work. It's not plug and play on day one and you get that first paycheck on the first Friday. It doesn't happen like that. So you need to be more prepared. But we're seeing much more and more of that. And if you're confident and secure on the financial aspect, you can try it out. You realize the risks are lower and you can say, I'm going to try that, give it my all, but it's not, my future doesn't hinge on that. If it's not checking all the boxes for me, I'll go do something else. So that is really, again, the confidence and empowerment helps you take that mindset into the second act marketplace, if you will.
Justin, are you seeing any shifts on the employer side to begin to, what comes to mind is this idea of the phased retirement. So are you seeing any support now from the corporate community, from the employer community around greater flexibility, greater support for this idea of a victory lap or a second act career, and somehow getting involved to support employees and working with the financial planning community, both internally in terms of the way they structure their own benefits programs, to further this thing along?
Yeah, we're seeing bits and pieces of it. I wish it was a broader trend, but I think smart employers on the cutting edge are realizing there are a lot of really talented, experienced professionals out there who are willing to work and lend their expertise. And from a self-centered standpoint, those corporations need to realize money isn't always the number one objective for those people. Autonomy and independence and flexibility might be at the top of their list, and oftentimes they might be able to make sacrifices on the pay. So the companies that I'm seeing here and there that are being creative, thinking outside the box, are being able to tap into a really broad, deep pool of expertise with people pursuing the second act. So we're seeing bits and pieces. Hopefully that's enough for other people to begin following on and make it more mainstream. Like your other guest a couple weeks ago on retirement jobs, resources like that are going to be, they were non-existent a couple years ago. So just the fact that that is there and becoming something real, that's a positive sign. And we see more of that. But I know personally clients that are looking to get back into the workforce, and they just say, my resume can't make it past the computers, right? Whatever it might be, if it's inherent or implicit bias in there, whatever it might be, the digital career world is really difficult to navigate sometimes for more experienced professionals. So again, goes back to having a plan and having a good network too. A lot of these creative and flexible second act careers don't appear on the job boards. They're something you have to go out and nurture and develop and sometimes create, right? You need to get an understanding of where you can add value and wiggle your way in there and make a proposal and say, hey, I know you are looking for this role at X level pay. I'd be willing to do it for a fraction of that if I can get flexible work and remote and health insurance. What do you think? So that stuff is becoming more and more common. Hopefully it becomes the norm at some point in time.
You have, now I know it's hard to talk about your specific clients, but maybe without naming them, could you give us like a fun example of somebody who did it right?
Yeah, so there's one, he's not a client, but is a guy I know who is a corporate executive, and I met him at a farmer's market. He was selling cookies. He started this whole cookie making business, and he had the example of the failed retirement too, where he went out and played a couple hundred rounds of golf after he retired and just said, this can't be it. I can't just play golf every day and then be done. There needs to be more to this. So he went back to culinary school and started a business making cookies. They're excellent cookies. He mails them all over the country and does these farmers markets. So that's a cool, there's countless other cool stories like that of people kind of pursuing their passions. but you don't have to have a wild entrepreneurial dream either. It could just be transforming your work to fit the life you want. But it could be anywhere on that spectrum.
Yeah, and I think that back to what have been saying over the course of our conversation, it really comes down to planning and to doing this from a much more conscious, intentional perspective where you try to get all your ducks lined up before you pull the trigger.
Exactly.
And that I think is a key distinction that a lot of people don't really consider. And I think if there's one takeaway from the conversation here today, it's that the plan is paramount.
Yep, you got to make a plan, because if you don't know where you're going, how will you know when you get there, right?
That's right.
But
So
I love, Justin, your concept of the victory lap, because it's just such a positive way to reframe this. It's not like, oh, you're starting over in a second act, and we say second act show. I know that. But the fact is, you have nothing to prove at this point in your life. You don't have to. It's a victory lap. Lighten up a little bit. Have some fun. You've already accomplished a lot in your life. And I think that's what your whole concept really embodies to me, at least coming to it. It's like, this is a neat way to look at it.
Yeah, it's about, having fun and doing what you want to do and stop doing the stuff you don't want to do, right?
Yeah.
And kind of, again, get intentional, make a plan that supports the life you really want to live. You've worked really hard for your entire life so that you can call the shots and you can be independent. So get intentional and do that.
I also think there's a pay it forward aspect to this, and there's a positive modeling aspect to the victory lap. The idea that you are showing people that this is possible, and that a later lifestyle, work style is a good thing, and that we have something to look forward to, and we can claim it as a victory as opposed to a defeat or sliding into oblivion or whatever image of decline tends to be the prevailing image in our culture. So it's a great, as Trey was saying, it's a great kind of response and pushback against old negative thought forms.
So nice. If someone's coming to you, what would be just some quick action steps before they were to make an appointment with a planner that they should have in hand when they go to this kind of appointment? What do they need to have thought about or have available in order to help them make this first step?
So when I'm first talking with somebody who's at this, what I call a career crossroads, and looking to map it out, it always starts first again with just exploring, where do you want to go? Who's most important to you? Where do you want to spend your time? What things in your ideal future, in your ideal world, do you want to have? And then we go from there. So thinking about that, people don't even stop to think about, if I could draw it up on paper, what does my ideal day, my ideal week, my ideal month look like?
Yeah.
And then having some of the details, and again, let your personal board of directors guide you, but just put it all out on paper. One page, you can summarize your whole financial life pretty simply, but having the vision and goals is most important. I've got a million different tools in my financial planning toolbox. I don't know which one's going to be right for you if I don't know where you want to go, right?
Yeah.
Are you trying to cross the lake, or are you trying to go through the woods? We're going to use a different set of tools depending on where you want to go. So getting clear on that is actually more important than having all your financial statements and a nice tidy spreadsheet.
Oh, I like that. Because I think that's what stops people sometimes. It's a little daunting.
Absolutely. Yeah. The hardest step is actually talking to a financial advisor, in my opinion. It's inertia is really, there's just so much kind of anxiety, and people don't know what to expect. But if you find the right type of person who specializes in your needs, then they probably have a process that's built to take you through all that and remove all those questions and get you pointed in the right direction.
Well, what I think also is so encouraging about what you're doing in this conversation, and to your point about actually picking up the phone or sending an email, is that this is an unconventional conversation, and not too many financial planners offer this kind of conversation, recognize that this is something that could be of interest to their clients, and their clients may be feeling uncomfortable about even discussing this because they feel like, well, what are they going to say? What am I going to do? I'm kind of closed into this phase of my life. I may as well just kind of hold my nose and just hope for the best.
Yeah. And the traditional advice was, so you don't want to retire at 65? It looks like it's financially feasible to retire at 62. Here you go. But that's not what people want. It's not just stopping a little earlier. They want to reshape everything and weave that into a cohesive plan. And that's where you need, more professional help.
Great. Well, we're going to wrap up the conversation, but before we do, I want to certainly thank you, Justin, for being with us today. It's very informative and I hope very encouraging for our listeners and our viewers. And I want to talk about what's coming up on the Second Act Show. In our next session, we have Mona Morshed coming on, the head of Generation.org. And Carrie, would you say something about Mona? Because she's got some fascinating stats and perspectives to share.
Right. Well, they've done tremendous studies looking at older workers in the job market applying for jobs and the hiring managers, what some of the biases are. And the good news being that actually when they are hired, they actually outperform the younger workers. So she can dig into those numbers, but she's got a good beat on it.
Great. And then you can see there we have Andy Levine coming on following Mona, the podcaster of the Second Act Stories podcast, who has a wealth of information and experience. It's kind of working a different side of the street from you, Carrie. So it'll be a great complementary conversation.
I'm a big fan of his. Yeah.
Great. Okay, everyone. Well, thank you for
Thanks,
joining us
Justin.
again today. Thanks to Justin, and we will see you on the next show.
Bye, everyone.